Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanam Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna Sahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Puranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharya Keshavam Badaraya Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vante Bhagavantau Punah Punah Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Vande Guru Parampara Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Gurudev. Bella, are you able to, you need to unmute yourself?
Yeah, Jai Gurudev. I'm here today.
Okay, very good. I hope your internet is fine because I'm not keeping very well. I don't know whether I will be able to, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yesterday, she wanted to, what did she say? She wanted to repeat once again.
No, I think she had joined in late, so she just wanted a summary of that. It's okay. I think go to the YouTube and then check on that. Huh? And in any case, she's not there now also. So I think we'll continue from where we left. I think we stopped at, let me check how much where.
Ayati, we had stopped. Yati and Ayati.
No, we went to, I think, verse number 40.
38 verse. 38 verse.
We went to 40, I think. Bhaya Vibrashta. We can run through the first few shlokas once. Just do the shloka and then we can come. I think here we stopped at sannyasi never comes to a bad end.
Okay.
Taking care of anatma is varatma alone. Yeah, we were actually in verse 40, but you can go through Arjuna's question and then Krishna's answers, just the shlokas and the pratipadartha, and then we'll go. Yeah.
I will just go through Arjuna's question with and then we will go to Bhagwan's answer.
Yes.
So Arjuna had one more imaginary problem, but definitely it is like a representation from all of us. Arjuna Uvacha Ayati Shraddhayopeto Yoga Chalitamaanasaha Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kamgatim Krishna Gacchati. Arjuna Uvacha said, Krishna, O Krishna, Shraddhaya, with faith in the Shastra, Upetaha, endowed, Ayatihi, one of inadequate effort, Yogat, from yoga, Chalitamanasaha, one whose mind wanders away, Yoga Samsiddhim, success in yoga, Aprapya, not gaining, Kam Gatim Gacchati, to which end does he or she go? Arjuna Uvacha, O Krishna, Shraddhaya Upetah Ayatihi, Yogat Chalitamanasaha, Yoga Samsiddhim, Aprapya, Kam Gatim Gacchati. Arjuna asked, O Krishna, not gaining success in yoga, and as the one is endowed with faith in the Shastra, but whose faith is inadequate, whose effort is inadequate, and whose mind wanders away from yoga goal. So that was the first imaginary question, and further he asks, Kachino nabhaya vibrashta chinna brahmiva nashyati Apratishto Mahabaho Vimudho Brahmanah Pathi. Mahabaho, O mighty arm Krishna, Brahmanah Pathi, in the path of knowledge of Brahman. Vimudhaha, the one who is deluded. Apratishtaha, one who is without any support. Ubhaya Vibrashtaha, one who has fallen from both. Chinna Abram Eva, like a cloudlet torn asunder. Kachita na nashyati, is he not destroyed? Mahabaho Brahmanah Pathi, Vimudha Apratishtaha, Ubhaya Vibrashtaha, Chinna Abrama Eva, Kachita na nashyati. Deluded in the path, knowledge of Brahman, is one who has fallen from both, being without any support, not destroyed, O mighty arm Krishna, like a cloudlet torn asunder. So here, is there no structure, you can become anything. If there is no structure, you can become anything. Sannyasa means just that, no structure. You can become anything without a structure, without any particular mode of life, nothing to pressure you into doing anything. You can become lazy also. As a sannyasi, you can also become lazy. When you are hungry, you can go for bhiksha and then lie down back again without doing anything. So the life of sannyasa gives you this kind of license. No one is going to question. Society is not going to question. And since there is no work for you to do, there is no employer or employee, there is also no father or mother to worry about you, which sometimes keeps people on track. If the sannyasi once had a wife and children, he has given them up also. Therefore, none of the societal norms are there for the sannyasi. Nor is there any religious norm, because the person who takes sannyasa is absolved from performing all the karmas enjoined by the Veda. Therefore, there is no problem. You can be anything you want, even a hippie. Thinking that such a person destroys himself, Arjuna asked Krishna to clear his doubt with reference to the fate of Ubhaya एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेतुर्मर्हस्य शेषतः त्वदन्यः संशयस्यास्य छेता न ह्युपपद्यते. Krishnam, O Krishna, me of mine. Etat, this samshayam, doubt, asheshatah, totally, chetum, to eliminate, arhasi, you should, he, for, twadanyah, other than you, asya samshayasya, of this doubt, cheta, the remover, na upapadyate, is not there. Krishnam me etat samshayam asheshatah chetum arhasi hi twadanya asya samshayasya cheta na upapadyate. You should eliminate this doubt of mine totally, O Krishna, for other than you, there is no one who can be the remover of this doubt. Because Arjuna had come to know that Krishna and both of them had taken many births, right? But he doesn't remember, but Prabhu, Ishvara, Krishna definitely remembers. So he knew that he definitely will have the answer to all his doubts. So I will just read this last question's explanation. Arjuna knows that there was no one else who could answer his question. Only the all-knowing Krishna as Ishvara could answer it, because only Ishvara knows what will happen to the sannyasi after he dies away from this life without gaining knowledge of the self. Chitta means the one who cuts or removes. Here it refers to the one who removes the doubt. Krishna then was the hitman for doubt. In fact, the only possible hitman. He alone was capable of eliminating Arjuna's doubts totally. Anyone else would have to say, this is what the Shastra says. Whereas Krishna is the one who initiated the Shastra itself. As he said at the beginning of the 4th chapter, I gave this eternal knowledge to Vivaswan, who gave it to Manu, who gave it to Ishwaku. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivaswan manave praha manu rikshva bravita. That is the Gita chapter 4th, shloka 1st. Therefore, Krishna as Ishvara knew what it was all about. He also told Arjuna earlier that they had a number of births before, but only he, Krishna, knew these births while Arjuna did not. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani na tvam vetha parantapa. That is also the chapter 4th, shloka 5th. From this, Arjuna concludes that Krishna knows what happens to a soul after death and therefore is the right person to talk about it. Arjuna is praising his Guru here, saying that there was no one equal to Krishna, no one who could eliminate his doubt totally. In other words, no one else is qualified to answer his question. Had Arjuna not asked this question, the Gita would have ended 3 verses ago. But because Arjuna asked the question, Krishna begins talking again. So please let me know if you want me to reread, since the message notification is coming internet not stable. So if you feel that I should read once again, please stop me in between and tell me to revisit the paragraph or line once again. So Arjuna is having faith in all pervading Krishna, and he knows that he is his guru and he is the only qualified and able guru who can take him out of this ajnana or his samshaya. Krishna begins talking again. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyanakrit Kaschida Nahi Kalyanakrit Kaschida Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyanakrit Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Shri Lord Krishna Uvacha said, Partha Vritha Tasya, for him or her, Vinashaha, destruction, Iha, here, Na eva Vidyate, indeed is not, nor Amutra, in the hereafter. Tat, O my son Arjuna, he, because Kaschit, anyone, Kalyanakrit, the one who performs good actions, Durgatim, bad end, Nagachati, reaches. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Parth Tasya Vinashah Iha Na Eva Vidyate Na Amutra Tata He Kaschit Kalyanakrit Durgatim Na Gachati. Shri Bhagwan said, indeed, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, there is no destruction for him or her, neither here nor in the hereafter, because anyone who performs good actions never reaches a bad end. So that is such a beautiful assurance by Bhagwan to Arjuna. Again, the person being discussed in this verse is that sannyasi, that yogi who was referred to previously as Ubhaya Vibrashta, one who had fallen from both Karma Marg and Yoga Marg for the reasons we have already seen. In fact, the person is not Ubhaya Vibrashta because here Krishna says that there is no falling as such. For the sannyasi who has not completed the job properly, destruction is not there. Vinashaha na vidyate, either here in this world, iha, or in any other world, amutra. Why? Because this person, although an ayati, has shraddha in the shastra. Having shraddha, there can be no loss for him in this life, and therefore the life of sannyasa is not a bad investment. He knows what it is all about. Because he has shraddha, there is no question of his being frustrated or sad in this world. He will simply continue to pursue the knowledge pleasantly, happily, until he gains it. And if shraddha were not to be there, the person would naturally think that he had made a mistake. Thinking so, he would always go back. In either case, then the problem of his being sad for what he has undertaken would not be there for the person. Nor will there be a problem later, that is, after the death. Amutra, Krishna says. He will come back to a situation that is conducive to the continuation of his pursuit of the knowledge that will give him moksha. Thus, Krishna assures Arjuna that destruction is definitely not there for him. Vinashah tasya na vidyate. So, Bhagwan's assurance that if once you are on this path and once you are having a self-knowledge, there is no doubt that he will not have, he will become like an immortal only. The sannyasi never comes to a bad end. Destruction here can only mean that the person comes back to a life that is worse than before, meaning that he gains a worse birth, a lower birth than the one he previously had. But this will not happen, Krishna says. There will be a higher birth, a better birth, because the person has lived a good life. He is a Kalyana Krita. Kalyana means moksha, and this person has taken a step towards moksha by living the life of sannyasa. The Kalyanakrit is not a dropout or a hippie. For the sake of moksha, which implies an understanding of Ishvara, the person has given up everything. And being a Kalyanakrit, the person does not come to a bad end. Durgatim na gacchati. So here Bhagwan is assuring he will not have a bad end. Anyone, Kaschit, who has done good action, charitable action, does not get an undesirable end. At the worst, such a person just proceeds from birth to birth, depending on the accumulated karma that precipitates a new body. But once a person makes a step for the sake of moksha, whatever he or she has done before has already paid off. The moment the person turns his or her attention towards himself or herself, there is no going back. So, antarmukhi sada sukhi. Taking care of anatma is for atma alone. Generally, a person only goes after anatma, not atma. For example, the physical body being anatma, how to take care of it is also anatma. How to take care of my mind is with reference to anatma. How to take care of my money, power, family is all with reference to anatma. How to take care of my future, meaning my next body, is also regarding anatma. Like this, everyone is interested in taking care of anatma alone and struggles to do so constantly. In fact, all this taking care of anatma is only for taking care of atma. Taking care is not for the sake of anatma. You do not take care of the body for the body's sake. It is for your sake, Atma's sake. Therefore, you take care of the Anatma for the sake of Atma. And in the process, you totally neglect the Atma. This indeed is the wonder, and we call it Maya. I'm just reading, browsing through since we have already done all this. If you want me to revisit, please let me know. The moment a person begins to question whether he or she is doing the right thing, Atma is being taken care of. And this does not take place in everyone. To ask, what is this Atma that is so anxious to take care of Anatma is to question Atma itself and is for Atma's sake, for one's own sake alone. The person who begins to pay attention to Atma, whether successful or not, has already traced his or her way back. To question what is considered to be normal is to discover that the normal is abnormal. Such a person has made a step towards moksha and therefore he or she is Kalyanakrita. Kalyana means auspicious. Therefore, moksha is Kalyana. Marriage is also called Kalyana because it marks the end of the brahmacharya stage of life and the auspicious beginning of grihastha which will finally prepare one for moksha, the most auspicious. Moksha is the ultimate kalyana and marriage is a sadhana, a means for gaining the grand finale called moksha. This is such a beautiful paragraph. It is like a major takeaway. Please, I will read once again. Please pay attention. Kalyana means auspicious. Therefore, moksha is Kalyana. Marriage is also called Kalyana because it marks the end of the brahmacharya stage of life and the auspicious beginning of the grihastha which will finally prepare one for moksha, the most auspicious. Moksha is the ultimate kalyana and marriage is a sadhana, a means for gaining the grand finale called moksha. Changing the course of karma. Therefore, anyone who has made a step towards moksha is called kalyanakrit, whether the person is karma yogi or a sannyasi. Both of them are kalyanakrits alone because some action has been taken for the sake of moksha. Thereafter, progress is assured. Any karma waiting to take the body of a frog, a celestial, or anything else is all subjugated and no longer has any chance to express itself. Once the person is Kalyanakrita, the entire order, the entire flow changes. Whereas if you are simply going along with the flow, then all the accumulated karmas have the same chance. But when a particular set of karmas exerts more pressure for expression, then it has a greater chance of getting fulfilled.
Can you read this one more time, Vela? This whole
Yeah,
paragraph.
this is very confusing paragraph. I did not understand. I will read once again. Changing the course of karma. Therefore, anyone who has made a step towards moksha is called kalyanakrita, whether the person is a karma yogi or a sannyasi. Both of them are kalyanakrits alone because some action has been taken for the sake of moksha. Thereafter, progress is assured. Any karma waiting to take the body of a frog, a celestial, or anything else is all subjugated and no longer has any chance to express itself. This line.
Which means once a person is on the path of moksha, even though he has some prarabdha to be born as a frog or a or XYZ, that gets subjugated. That is what any karma waiting to take the body of a frog, a celestial, or anything else is all subjugated and no longer has any chance to express itself.
Subjugated means nullified.
Subjugated is, it is suppressed. It is like relegated to a lower level. It is not, doesn't express itself.
Okay.
Which is why, if the person has Shraddha, the person does not get destroyed. He is born into a higher, into a conducive family. But anyway, there are some questions here. Let's continue reading.
Yes.
We'll check it out.
Once the person is Kalyanakrita, the entire order, the entire flow changes. Whereas if you are simply going along with the flow, then all the accumulated karmas have the same chance. Means the chance to get subjugated, right?
No, no. If you're going along with the flow means you're like a normal samsari, you're not on the path of moksha, then all the accumulated karmas have the same chance of being expressed. Then you have the same chance of being expressed as a frog or a celestial, anything. So the determining factor here is going the reverse flow. If you remember some time back, I think in the introduction or so, Swamiji was talking of the river flowing backwards towards the mountain. This path of moksha is like walking, is going towards It's like a reverse flow. It is not, you're not flowing down the valley. You're going up against the mountain. So it is a path that requires effort. So when you're on the path of moksha, these accumulated karmas they get subjugated. Whereas if you are going with the flow, you're a samsari, then the whole gamut is open. They can be expressed in any way.
Okay.
But
so if you are just a karmi with a doership in your
correct.
mind, yeah, then there are all chances that you will take a body of any, whichever is your prarabdha.
I think this explains, because in earlier sentence I had this doubt about this. What is that Muni's name? Bharata, sage Bharata, Jada Bharata, because he was a sage. He was, of course, on the path, but because of his preoccupation with the deer, his whole mind, everything was only about the deer. And so-called, he kind of sidetracked himself from the moksha marg to taking care of the deer. So in a way, he had become a samsari, and therefore his karma was expressed as being born as Jada Bharata. I suppose so. That might be the explanation, but maybe when we read a little further, we will understand.
Yeah. So I'll just read once again this. Any karma waiting to take the body of a frog, a celestial, or anything else is all subjugated and no longer has any chance to express itself. Once the person is kalyanakrit, the entire order, the entire flow changes. Whereas if you are simply going along with the flow, then all the accumulated karmas have the same chance. But when a particular set of karmas exerts more pressure for expression, then it has a greater chance of getting fulfilled. Yeah, it is clear now.
You know, this is so in keeping with the modern genetics. Modern genetics also says your gene expression, it depends on behavior can modify your gene expression. See, we're all born with a set of genes, no? There are recessive genes, there are dominant genes. There are also, like, for instance, if you look at and behavior, our lifestyle can modify the way our genes are expressed. So there are three aspects here: recessive, dominant, as well as behavior modifying our genes. Example is Japanese and Chinese average person is like less than 5 feet tall. Whereas behavior modification, if you look at the Japanese volleyball or basketball players, they have done a lot of stretches. Their lifestyle is so that they've stretched a lot. So therefore, the average volleyball, basketball players are much taller than even their parents. So that is the behavior modification of the gene. It has got a particular term, actually. It is, we learned it in our prenatal thing. Let me get the actual scientific term for that. But that is how survival of the fittest happens. Because they modify their behavior towards survival. So whichever organism has this modified version, they will survive. And that is how evolution has happened. So I suppose when you are on the path of Kalyanakrit, you have, with your Purusharth, you have put in a certain lifestyle. You have started walking upwards against the flow. So this will take precedence. Your normal genes will not take any more precedence. Your prarabdha will not take precedence so much.
So beautiful. That is so beautiful assurance.
So that is why on the path, that is why even Gurudev says, once you're on the path, you may have walked about 50 steps, but gone back 48 steps. You will never go back to starting position. You will always be at least 1 or 2 steps ahead. You will never go back to square one.
Very nice. So beautifully explained, Brahmanaji. Once you have changed the course, the order has to change. Therefore, for the person who has Shraddha, all other karmas have to wait and the one for pursuing the knowledge proceeds. Please remember this line. It is such a beautiful line. I will read once again. Once you have changed the course, the order has to change. Therefore, for the person who has Shraddha, all other karmas have to wait and the one for pursuing the knowledge proceeds. And how long will the others have to wait? Until the person gains kalyana moksha. And once moksha is gained, all karmas disappear. They are finished for good. They do not exist at all. Therefore, to question whether one is a karta is no ordinary question. Assuming one is a karta, one performs good and bad actions. But here, the very karta is questioned. One asks, am I a karta? This then is the question that makes one a kalyanakrit. And having asked it, no one reaches a bad end. So the one who is kalyanakrit, he knows that he doesn't have the kartritva bhavana. He knows that it is all Ishvara. And he has that prasada buddhi. Whatever comes, whatever situation, it is as a prasada from the Lord only. Krishna addresses Arjuna here as Tat. Kshamyatam. Krishna addresses Arjuna here as Tat, a name used affectionately for either a father or a son in recognition of the closeness between them. A father is one who protects himself in the form of his son, the son being as good as himself. When the son is happy, the father is happy. When the son grows up nicely, the father feels that he too has grown nicely. If the son is successful, the father also feels successful. Like this, whatever happens to the son happens to the father in that it very much affects him. Therefore, there is no distance between the son and the father. For this reason, they are both called Tat. Such a beautiful, intimate explanation by Swamiji. Here, Arjuna is not Krishna's son, but he is in the sense that a creator can be called father. Janaka. There is the father who creates a body for you, Deva Janaka, and a father who creates wisdom in you, Vidya Janaka. Because the wise person who is a teacher, Acharya, is one who gives you a complete rebirth in the form of wisdom. He is called Father. Therefore, the author of the body and the author of the knowledge are called Tat, Father. The word, I hope that you all can just remember for the Manana here, it is like given the physical body's father is called Janaka in Sanskrit. The one who he is called, because he has created a physical body for you, he is a Deha Janaka. The father who has given the wisdom in you, he is called Vidya Janaka. And because the wise person who is a teacher, Acharya, is the one who gives you a complete rebirth in the form of wisdom, he is called Father. Therefore, the author of the body and the author of the knowledge are called Tat, Father. The word Tat is used for a son as well as for a disciple, Shishya. Arjuna is not Krishna's son, but he is his Shishya, and a Shishya is like a son, equal to a son. Therefore, Krishna affectionately addresses him here as Tat, telling him that the sannyasi who has Shraddha, but who does not gain the knowledge, does not come to a bad end. In the next verse, Krishna begins his explanation about what does happen to this person. So here, Krishna,
Can we
Lord,
just go back to this, the previous paragraph? Yeah, the one even before this? Yeah. Yeah, I think here, um, from Krishna addresses Arjuna as Tat. Can you just read that one, Vela?
Yeah. Krishna addresses Arjuna here as Tat, name used affectionately for either a father or a son in recognition of the closeness between them. A father is one who protects himself in the form of his son, the son being as good as himself. When the son is happy, the father is happy. When the son grows up nicely, the father feels that he too has grown nicely. If the son is successful, the father also feels successful. Like this, whatever happens to the son happens to the father in that it very much affects him. Therefore, there is no distance between the son and the father. For this reason, they are both called Tat. I think because Bhagwan is explaining, because Arjuna was worried that he will disappear, the person who is Yoga Brashta or Ubhaya Brashta, he will disappear like a cloudlet. So he is affectionately telling it will not happen like that. We say when we are very happy to our children, no? Beta or anyone, Brahmaraji, would you like to explain here, or would you like
That's
to?
fine. You can continue reading, Vela.
Yeah. Here, Arjuna is not Krishna's son, but he is a father in the sense that a creator can be called Father Janaka. There is the father who creates a body for you, Deha Janaka, and a father who creates wisdom in you, Vidya Janaka. Because the wise person who is a teacher, Acharya, is one who gives you a complete rebirth in the form of wisdom. He is called Father. Therefore, the author of the body and the author of the knowledge are called Tat, Father. The word Tat is used for a son as well as for a disciple, Shishya. Arjuna is not Krishna's son, but he is his Shishya. And a Shishya is like a son, equal to a son. Therefore, Krishna affectionately addresses him here as Tat, telling him that the sannyasi who has Shraddha but who does not gain the knowledge does not come to a bad end. In the next verse, Krishna begins his explanation about what does happen to this person. Prapnyakrtan chitva shati sama शुचीनां श्रीमां गेहे योगभ्रष्टो विजायते. Yoga one who has fallen from, did not succeed in yoga. Punyakritam, belonging to those who do actions. Lokan, worlds. Prapya, having gained. Shashwati sama. Shashwati samah, countless years. Ushitva, having lived there. Shuchinam, of the people committed to dharma. Shrimatam, of the wealthy and cultured. Gehe, in the home. Abhijayate, is born. Yoga Brashtaha Punyakrutam Lokan Prapya Shashwatihi Samah Ushitva Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Abhijayate. Having gained the worlds belonging to those who do good actions and having lived there for countless years, the one who did not succeed in yoga is born in the home of the wealthy and cultured people who are committed to dharma. So here it is such a good assurance by Bhagwan. I will just read the meaning once again. Having gained the worlds belonging to those who do good actions and having lived there for countless years, the one who did not succeed in yoga is born in the home of the wealthy and cultured people who are committed to dharma. So that he can continue his path of yoga to achieve the moksha. Both the here, ihaloka, and the hereafter, paraloka, are covered in this verse. Punya kritam loka refers to the worlds, lokas, gained by punyakrits, punya karmakrits, those who have lived a life of dharma, performing good actions that produce punya. And having gained these worlds, prapya punya kritam lokan, how long does this person live in those worlds? For countless number of years. Shashwati Sama, Krishna says, that is, he will live there for a very long time. I will just repeat the paragraph once again. Both the here, ihaloka, and the hereafter, paraloka, are covered in this verse. Punya kritam loka refers to the worlds, lokas gained by punyakrits, punya karmakrits, those who have lived a life of dharma, performing good actions that produce punya. And having gained these worlds, prapya punya kritam lokan, how long does this person live in those worlds? For countless number of years. Shashwati Sama, Krishna says. That is, he will live there for a very long time. It must be remembered that the person being discussed here is the same Yoga Bhrashta mentioned earlier, one whom Arjuna thought would lose both worlds by not having succeeded in the pursuit of yoga, meaning the knowledge that is moksha. In fact, the person is not a Bhrashta at all because there is no falling here, as was mentioned before. Krishna uses the word Yoga Bhrashta here because in Arjuna's mind, the person had fallen somehow. Therefore, Krishna wants to negate any kind of falling with reference to this person by telling Arjuna that the person he thought of as Yoga Bhrashta is born Abhijayate into surroundings that are conducive to the pursuit of this knowledge. Krishna describes these surroundings with the words Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, meaning in the house of a person of wealth and culture who is also committed to dharma, therefore called a Shuchi. The word Shrimata suggests wealth and abundance of comforts, etc. By the word Shuchi, culture is emphasized here because there can be an abundance of wealth in a home where, for example, the father is a mafia don. Such a house is not conducive to the pursuit of knowledge. It is more like a prison than a home with its high spiked walls and sentries posted everywhere. In such circumstances, wealth itself becomes a prison. This kind of wealth then is not referred to here, the point being made by the word Shuchi. So Bhagwan is clarifying with the word Shrimata, Shrimata. Shri is an auspicious, right? Lakshmi eva. So he will be born in the dharmic, well-cultured, wealthy person's family where he can continue his rest of the journey for the moksha. Anyone would like to share, or I will read further. One's surroundings should be conducive. The words Shuchinam Gehe implies a family that has a value for values, a value for living a life of dharma. This then is the kind of family into which the yoga brashta is born, Krishna says. In these conducive surroundings, the person will pick up certain values. To be born into such a family is not easy and is to be recognized as a great advantage, since a person can also be born into a place with some handicap or other. To have a father or mother who is an alcoholic is considered to be a wrong start. A wrong start, however, does not mean that there is nothing to be gained. Perhaps the person can exhaust something which makes it a good start, since all is well that ends well. I will just read once again. One's surroundings should be conducive. The words Shuchinam Gehe implies a family that has a value for values, a value for living a life of dharma. This then is the kind of family into which the yoga brashta is born, Krishna says. In these conducive surroundings, the person will pick up certain values. To be born into such a family is not easy and is to be recognized as a great advantage, since a person can also be born into a place with some handicap or other. To have a father or mother who is an alcoholic is considered to be a wrong start. A wrong start, however, does not mean that there is nothing to be gained. Perhaps the person can exhaust something, which makes it a good start, since all is well that ends well. So I think here Prahlada was born to a Asur, Rakshasa. But still he could achieve Ishvara's grace. What is to be appreciated here is that to get out of a wrong start is very difficult. Whereas where the start is conducive, then the person's pursuit of moksha can proceed. In the very beginning of his life, he will show the sign of a sannyasi because he has to fulfill what he has started. The conducive surroundings enable him to live a life of prayer and think constantly of Ishvara. Thinking always of Ishvara, he looks into what Ishvara is, questions what the truth of everything is, what the cause of everything is, all of which is thinking of Ishvara, Ishvara Smarana. So even if the person is not born in a comfortable, conducive family, but still because of his previous birth's path of yoga, he will have that vairagya, or he will have that constant thought of Ishvara, and he will have that prayerful life. From this, we can see that there is no such thing as a bad lot for the person, either in terms of this life or in the hereafter. Even coming back to this life, he picks up the thread and continues. And to facilitate his pursuit, his birth will be in a better place, meaning that it will be more conducive for gaining the knowledge. Anyone would like? If anyone wants to share, or I will proceed further. Krishna then mentions, from this we can see that there is no such thing as a bad lot for the person, either in terms of this life or in the hereafter. Even coming back to this life, he picks up the thread and continues. And to facilitate his pursuit, his birth will be in a better place, meaning that it will be more conducive for gaining the knowledge. Krishna then mentions another possibility for the person who had not yet gained the knowledge. Athava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimatam etaddi durlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. Athava or dhimatam of people who are yoginam of yogis eva indeed kule in the family bhavati is born. Yat idrisham janma, this birth of this kind, he in loke in the world, et durlabhataram, is very difficult. Athava dhimatam yoginam eva kule bhavati yat idrisham janma he loke etat durlabhataram, or he is indeed born into the family of wise yogis. A birth such as this is indeed very difficult to gain in this world. I will repeat once again. Or he is indeed born into the family of wise yogis. A birth such as this is indeed very difficult to gain in this world. We have seen that there is no such thing as a bad lot, durgati, for a yogi, a sannyasi, who has the desire to know the self. Anyone who has taken a step towards knowing oneself has already initiated a process of unwinding oneself from samsara. You wind yourself in samsara by karma without even questioning whether you are a karta, a doer or not. Then, within the samsara, retaining the doership centered on the self, you try to accomplish various ends. And these ends are accomplished on the basis of the desire for something other than Atma, all of which we saw earlier. I will repeat once again. We have seen that there is no such thing as a bad lot, durgati, for a yogi, a sannyasi who has the desire to know the self. Anyone who has taken a step towards knowing oneself has already initiated a process of unwinding oneself from samsara. You wind yourself in samsara by karma without even questioning whether you are a karta, a doer or not. Then, within the samsara, retaining the doership centered on the self, you try to accomplish various ends. And these ends are accomplished on the basis of the desire for something other than Atma, all of which we saw earlier. So we, without having the viveka of Atma and Anatma, with the Aham eva karta, you continue the journey, but once you are on the path of a karma yogi, not just a karmi, the durgati is not possible. Once you have started inquiring about the self, there is no durgati. But here you are questioning the very swarupa of Atma. You may not know whether you are a karta or not, but at least you are questioning. You are inquiring into it by asking, what is Atma? You are not taking whatever Atma is for granted. Generally, people only try to avoid the dukkha that results from the limitations and bondage experienced by the karta, the subject, without ever questioning the subject itself. Therefore, all their activity is only to bring about something desirable. This kind of life is called samsara. So we all live such. So without questioning the Swarupa of Atma, we continue to live the life of a samsari. Samsara is a disease and no one goes for the cure. Samsara is a disease and no one goes for the cure. But once you pay attention to the very subject and ask, who is this subject? What is this I, etc., then you have initiated an auspicious desire, Shubha, a desire for Atma, Atma Ichha, has to result in moksha. Thus, Krishna's assurance that there is no way that the person will come to a bad end. He also gave Arjuna a little inside information, as it were. The one you call Yoga Brashta, Arjuna, just picks up the thread in his next birth and continues his pursuit of knowledge. The person's prayerful life itself produces certain punya. And because of that punya, the person gains a pleasant stay in the hereafter, followed by rebirth in a situation conducive to his pursuit of knowledge. So here Bhagwan reveals the little secret also, that once you have started this journey, there is no looking back and you will get always a better rebirth. The idea being conveyed here is that if there is a life after death, a world other than this one, that world will be good for the person. All experiences there will be happy experiences. Therefore, even in the hereafter, there is no such thing as a bad lot for the person. And having enjoyed the result, the punya of his prayerful life in the hereafter, he then comes back to this earth with an adhikari sharira, a body that is qualified to gain the knowledge, meaning that the person returns as a human being. He will not come back in a lower form, but will definitely be born as a human being into a setup that is conducive for his pursuit. Therefore, there is no question of a bad lot anywhere. Any physical body is called yoni. Yoni meaning womb, of which there are three types. Deva yoni, a celestial body. Manushya yoni, the body of a human being. And Adho yoni, the body assumed by lower life beings. Manushya yoni is the incarnation in which a physical body enjoining a free will is assumed, meaning a human body or its equivalent here or anywhere else. A person need not be born on this particular planet necessarily, but in some setup or other he will be born. Here, Krishna describes the setup into which the person under discussion will be born as the home of a person who is highly cultured and wealthy and at the same time righteous. Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe. There may be wealth, but there will also be culture. And if there is no wealth, there will definitely be a lot of culture. The family will also be highly ethical and committed to living a life of values. In this way, the person does not have a false start, a start that is handicapped in any way, and therefore can easily pick up the thread of his pursuit of the knowledge. Shall I continue or I will just, because there is, it continues. Anyone wants me to read some paragraph once again, just
Yeah,
let me know.
I think the last para, if you can read one more time, and then maybe I think we'll do Manana on this and then go to Shloka 7. Because I think this is continuing, no? It is a longer explanation.
Yeah, I will just read once again the last two paragraphs. Any physical body is called yoni. Yoni meaning womb, of which there are three types. Deva yoni, a celestial body. Manushya yoni, the body of a human being. And Adho yoni, the body assumed by lower life beings. Manushya yoni is the incarnation in which a physical body enjoying a free will is assumed, meaning a human body or its equivalent, here or anywhere else. A person need not be born on this particular planet necessarily, but in some setup or other, he will be born. Here, Krishna describes the setup into which the person under discussion will be born as the home of a person who is highly cultured and wealthy and at the same time righteous. Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe. There may be wealth, but there will also be culture. And if there is no wealth, there will definitely be a lot of culture. The family will also be highly ethical and committed to living a life of values. In this way, the person does not have a false start, a start that is handicapped kept in any way, and therefore can easily pick up the thread of his pursuit of the knowledge. So that is such a beautiful assurance by Bhagavan for all of us who are on this path. So we will just close our eyes and for a few seconds, and then we will try to contemplate what is being told by Bhagavan today as a reply to Arjuna's samshaya. Hari Om. I'll just read once again Bhagavan's reply in the term of shloka, and then I think we start with 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Parth Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyanakrit Kashid Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Shri Bhagavan said, indeed, O son of Pritha Arjuna, there is no destruction for him or her, neither here nor in the hereafter, because anyone who performs good actions never reaches a bad end. Bhagavan replies, Prapya punyakritam lokan shashvati shuchinam shrinam gehe yoga brashto vijayate. Having gained the worlds belonging to those who do good actions and having lived there for countless years, the one who did not succeed in yoga is born in the home of the wealthy and cultured people who are committed to dharma. अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्. Or he is indeed born into the family of wise yogis. A birth such as this is indeed very difficult to gain in this world. So here Bhagavan has given such a beautiful assurance as well as some secrets even for the life after. So we are all very bhagyashali. We are all lucky to be on this path. We have Gurudev as our Tat, who is always there 24/7 to guide us on this path.
So to have a Manushya Yoni itself and to have a Manushya Yoni with a free will, that is a person with a normal functioning brain and mind, not like a mentally challenged person, itself is a blessing. And this comes because of whatever punya you've done in the previous janmas.
And also it comes after 84 lakhs of being in the other yonis.
Or so it is believed, right?
Yeah.
So once you get this, and when you have the free will, how we utilize the free will is what determines our path again. You can use your free will to do things which are adharmic. You can do your free will to work towards moksha marg. You have the dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So where you want to put your free will in? Is it in towards accumulation of artha and kama to achieve more of that, or towards moksha marg? And a person who starts walking on the path of moksha, a kalyanakrit, whether he's a karma yogi or a sannyasi, he will never ever go down into a adho yoni, a lower birth. He will always be born into a more conducive environment, wealthy and a cultured family. Even if it's not wealthy, there will be culture, and his ascent, he will continue to evolve. which is why it explains how, I think someone shared in the group about this Ramanarayan, the Nama Ramayana that was being so beautifully sung by someone in the Far East. I don't know which country it was. How did they, I mean, they're not connected to Sanatana Dharma in any way physically. They're in a different country altogether. How will you explain these people taking up these chants and chanting them? There are people in Sweden who do Rudram and they chant Rudram. They're born Swedish, nationality is Swedish. So it is their samskara, the impressions of their previous lives that are taking shape. So even if they are in a different country altogether, because of this, the power of uh, their efforts that they've put in their previous janmas, they are born. They will continue that path. So nothing. That is why it is called sadhana. This is the only dhana, only wealth that you will carry forward into your other lives. At the same time, a little word of caution. We do not do all these things in order to gain punya. Then you are only a karmi, you're not a karma yogi. That little awareness we will have to bring in, having studied Bhagavad Gita thus far, is we don't do good deeds, don't do charitable deeds only so that you can get punya. Then it is like your you know, you're still being a samsari. You want to do things to get a better life here as well as in the hereafter. Whereas a karma yogi is one who does things because they have to be done. And his intention is not on the punya, that punya anyway will come. He's not bothered about the punya. He does things because they have to be done. Yeah, I think everyone else can also share.
I love the word, the explanation by Swamiji that marriage is also kalyanakari. Yeah, please go ahead. Someone.
Yeah, this is this thing, Kalyana Mandapam, we say. We generally associate Kalyan means marriage, but here the marriage of Jiva and Shiva kind of thing. Very beautiful explanation of Kalyana. Jai Gurudev.
This is why it is said, Vivaha is where each of the partners, they uplift one another on this path. That is why the two souls have come together. That is the actual meaning of marriage.
So even as
Please
a
say that
grihastha,
again.
Marriage between two people is because the ultimate purpose of marriage is not just to create and procreate progeny. It is to uplift one another. Like the wife uplifts the husband uplifts, they mutually uplift one another on this path. That is what marriage is for. And therefore here it is mentioned moksha is the ultimate kalyana and marriage is a sadhana, a means for gaining the grand finale called moksha. So beautiful that Bhagwan, this was almost some more than 5,000 years or more ago. What Krishna has mentioned in these verses is what modern genetics is now talking of as in gene expression. So modern science is still trying to uncover the truths of gene expression, whereas Krishna so beautifully just it was like in an answer, it was in answer to Arjuna's question, what will happen to these people who uh, who leave the physical body without having attained moksha? They will not get destroyed because they have the thread of Shraddha with them. They will only continue to scale higher. And that is how dominant genes, they express themselves. There are so many examples. I think we have Dr. Renu, Dr. Savita, maybe you can also share how gene expression how the environmental conditions, the behavior of a person, should I say, alter the gene expression. And it is proved also, research has shown that practicing Sudarshan Kriya actually increases the, in putting it in common terms, the longevity gene or the youth gene. There is a gene, there is an aging gene that is suppressed. This talking about subjugation, karma being subjugated, the previous, otherwise, all genes have a fair expression, which is for a karmi. Right? So, whereas when a person is on the moksha mark, he has he's creating a change in his behavior, in his thinking, so that the future gene expressions will go in line with that thinking, in line with the mumukshutva. And this also explains how Dr. Savita was talking about the japa, when even Bhagwan mentions it. At the time of leaving the body, what is the uppermost in your mind? That is what you'll take birth as, which was evidenced in how Jada Bharata was born as a deer. So when you keep doing this japa, it is not like you're just doing it at the end of your life. When you make it a practice, when you make reading knowledge a practice, living all of this, it is there in it is there in your awareness more and more, then there is a chance that even at the time of leaving the physical body, these are what will be there in your subconscious, in your awareness. Then you will be born accordingly. That's why Gurudev says in one of his knowledge talks, says you keep thinking of chicken at the time of your death, you will be born as a chicken. Whereas this practice of chanting Om before you sleep and after you get up, this is what we teach children in the Little Angels and Art Excel, even in the happiness program. Happiness program, not as much, but for the youth courses, it's taught. They go to bed with that thought. That is the first thought that they will wake up with.
This is very vital practice. Huh? Once Gurudev in one of the talks was saying, you practice for a few days, like wagging the tail of the dog. If you wag your buttocks for a period of time, and then he was laughing that early in the morning when you get up, but you won't be able to control yourself, but get up and wag your tail. Like he, that much it gets into your subconscious mind. That is why before going to sleep and the moment you get up, these two moments are very precious to really understand the spiritual wisdom. Jai Gurudev.
And even that all of us are meeting here in the virtual space is because each one of us has that samskara in us. It is not because of anybody's, if someone is a nimitta karana, yes. But unless all of us have that thread of samskara, which is what we are holding on to, we will not be here. That is why Gurudev also says, in order to get to this knowledge, this path itself is a big blessing. And he had mentioned pointing to someone that the teacher was saying, we're trying for so many years for this person to come back. Gurudev says, no, he will come in several other lifetimes. He will still take more lifetimes to come to this path. So that is the strength of the practices of sadhana, of being in this knowledge, being in the moksha marg, kalyanakrit. I have a friend who is a Muslim, but more than any of us, she chants the Lalita Sahasranam every day. There's not a Rudra, there's not a Navratri she has missed attending in the ashram. She's a devout Muslim. She does a Ramadan fasting and everything else. But she is so deeply rooted in this. How else will you explain?
Dr. Dhamra
Yeah.
and Kuwait, they had Brahma Kumari group. Most of them who are running with are Muslims.
Isn't that wonderful?
Very nice.
Yeah.
Every morning, 5 o'clock, 5:30, they read music. She has given her own house
Mm.
for Zikr.
Yeah. So Dr.
That's
Renu
so
was
beautiful.
mentioning, yeah, I hope all of you were able to get what Dr. Renu was so beautifully explaining. In Kuwait, the Brahma Kumaris are being conducted, the whole thing is organized, conducted by Muslims. So,
A handful of them, but
right.
they go to Madhuban regularly.
Mm.
Very, very profound devotion.
Mm. Yeah, very beautiful. Does anyone else want to share anything on this, these shlokas? Otherwise, we'll go to shloka 7. I think Simiji is there.
Yeah, I will
Yeah,
just
yeah, Brahmradhi,
project
I'm there.
Shloka 7. You want me to project, Simiji?
I'm
Bella,
there, I'm there.
Bella, I have it ready. Don't worry. You have to go up all the way. I have it ready. I'll project it. I'll share screen.
Okay,
Yeah, बोल रहे हो?
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Simiji.
Yeah, Jai Guru Dev. I've tried my level best, whatever I could. So the 7th verse goes, Jeet Atmana Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita Sheet Ushna Sukh Dukheshu Tatha Mana Apamanayo. The meaning is, for the person who has mastery over oneself, whose mind is tranquil with reference to heat and cold, pleasure and pain, and praise and criticism, the mind is in a state of composure. Now, Jeet Atma means the person whose body, mind, and senses are mastered. This means that the person is not carried away by its moods, which keep changing every now and then with varying situations. The moods do not take him as hostage. The word prashanta or tranquility means an absence of agitation or excitement. Thus, for the one who is Jitatma and Prashanta, there is no situation that can disturb him. In every situation, his mind is in the state of Param Samahita. Now, let us see what are the various situations which can make the mind tranquility. First, Sheet Ushna, which is unpleasantly cold or unpleasantly hot. Secondly, Sukha Dukha, pleasure, Sukh, or sorrow, which is Dukha. Third is Man Apman, that is praise or criticism. Now, you have to work on gaining mastery over the mind because these opposites are disturbing elements. Now, Swamiji says that among the above opposites, that is criticism, Apman, is the most difficult one to be handled. It comes from childhood, ever since the parents criticize their child. This becomes sensitive and vulnerable area. Any subsequent criticism causes pain to come out. The apmana is personalized and hence very difficult to handle. By superimposing philosophies like a list of do's and don'ts and should not, etc., you are putting lid on old pains and creating a volcano which can erupt when you keep putting pressure. The only way to handle these opposites is by understanding them well through knowledge and imbibing calmness in the mind. This verse clearly means that in all situations, the person's mind, Atma, should be in a state of composure, Param Samhita, and one has to work towards it. Shankara also gives the meaning of this verse as the person whose Karya Karna Sangata is mastered is called a Jeet Atma, and because his mind is tranquil, he is also called Prashanta. Such person then recognizes Satchit Anand Atma as his own Atma and is always Samahita even when situation change. Then according to me, I feel that if we are in a state of composure, which can come by, say, the first tool being the breath, that is how we can control our emotions. And secondly, by the knowledge points of happiness course, which will help us then rather getting affected by the superimposed ideas. By all this, then awareness is built up, and then the knowledge which we have, it comes up, and this doesn't remain a jnana anymore, but it becomes our experience. Composure will happen where our mind becomes our friend and not enemy, and then we have a say over of mind, Prashant Atma. Thank you and Jai Gurudev.
Very beautiful.
Very, very beautifully explained, Simiji.
Thank you, Brahmaraji. I was just feeling, I hope I've lived up to the expectation.
It is nothing here. No one is sitting in the seat of judgment at all.
Yeah,
We're all
I
doing it
understand.
very innocently, and it is up to us, each one of us again. We have Shloka 8 tomorrow, so whoever is wanting to come forward and do Shloka 8. See, when you did this, there was that little effort. You had to go to the PDF, read, understand, get your own clarity, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
that is why Nana was insisting on this. He said, this is the only way that
yeah,
this knowledge will not just remain in print, it will become part of our nature. It will slowly become part of us. We'll imbibe it. That clarity will dawn and then it will start expressing itself.
yeah,
So,
very true.
very, very beautifully done. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
And here again, when we're doing this, we have the shloka 5 and 6. Uddhared atmanatmanam, natmanam avasade. Never look down upon yourself. Never use yourself to uplift you. No, never think, sit in the thing, in the position saying, oh, will I be able to do it? Well, can I do? What will others think? All that should be brushed aside. Just take the plunge and then do it. So what
Thank
if
you.
that is, isn't it?
Beautifully, she said the tool also. So very well
Yeah,
summarized the whole thing. Very
very
beautiful.
nice.
Thank you.
So before we close today, anyone wanting to do the shloka 8 for tomorrow?
If nobody is doing, then I will take.
Yeah. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriya Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Samaloshtashma Kanchana. It's a beautiful verse, no? So fine. We'll wind up here today. Bella, you want to do the shan?
Yeah, okay, Brahmaraji. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashit Dukhavag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Harihi Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Jai
धन्यवाद
Gurudev.
जय
Jai
गुरुदेव.
Gurudev.
Thank you.